everyone, and welcome back to another awesome episode of Modern Mom Probs Live. I am your host, Tara Clark, and today we're going to be talking about working full-time while momming. I am joined by two of my good friends, Priscilla Kavanaugh. She is It's P Cav on Instagram and TikTok, and Tina, who is the founder and CEO of Tiny Knot Co. I'm going to bring them on right now, and let's see, we got there, and then let me get Priscilla, and we should be good to go. Let's see, trying to bring our videos up. Let's see. You guys. Yeah. Hey, girl. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I am so thrilled to see you. You have no idea.
I think I have an idea.
Do you? No, you really don't, actually, because I miss you, and I feel like we have not seen each other in such a long time. Hey, Tina. How are you?
Hi.
And so we're going to be talking about all things working moms. We're going to be sharing our stories. We're going to be sharing tips and just sharing frustrations and all of those things that sort of come with it.
Sounds good.
I'm
excited.
Awesome. So I'm going to have you guys introduce yourselves really fast. Tina, let's start with you. Just give me like a quick rundown of who you are and what you're about.
Yeah, so my name is Tina. I'm from New York. I am a mom of a daughter named Charlie. She's 2. She's a little spitfire. And I've been in product development and design my whole career. And recently I have launched my own baby business.
Awesome. So tell me about Tiny Knot Co.
Yeah, so we are, I'm actually right now for PR, but so we make all bamboo headbands. I drew all the prints myself. And the reason why Tiny Knot Co. started was, as most moms go through postpartum anxiety and depression, I couldn't fathom leaving my kid, after just 3 months. And I was returning to, unfortunately, a quite toxic work environment. And on top of that, I always knew I wanted to start something. And when my daughter was born, I slapped, the biggest obnoxious bow I could on her head. And 2 things happened. One, it left a dent on her head, and I was like psycho about it. My doctor was like, Tina, it's the equivalent of like a sock impression, like calm down. And 2, she had eczema, and, it just, everything irritated her. So I stopped. But then, I'm in the fashion industry, so I want her to look good, right?
Modern baby's got to look her best.
Right. That's a modern mom problem.
Exactly. So long story short, I found that bamboo pajamas didn't irritate her skin. And then I birthed my second child, Tiny Knot Co. We use all bamboo. We have a patent pending design that lays completely flat against the head. So there's no marks, no indents. And I'm just here trying to balance motherhood, small business, and working full time.
Yeah, that's amazing. That's what we're here to talk about today. Thank you for that. Do you also make them for moms? Because I kind of feel like I need one.
I do. I actually do. I don't have them here, but yes, we have matching mommy styles.
Oh, that's so cute. All right. I mean, I have a son and he's 10 years old, but like, I still feel like I need one.
Yeah, I will be sure to get you some.
Awesome. All right, P, I'm going to throw it over to you.
Hi. I'm Priscilla. I currently live in Wilmington, Delaware. I was up in New York near Tina, but I was part of the COVID exodus. So yeah, moved back to my hometown a few years ago. Started working full time in influencer marketing. But recently that company ceased to exist. So now I'm hustling for myself. And trying to get my content creation and my side hustles to be full-time, sustainable ways of earning a living.
Yeah, I hear that. Yeah. That could be its own episode all by itself.
Yeah.
Hey, well, like I said, I'm unemployed now, so I'm chronically available.
Fantastic. So you're going to come back on another Thursday night at 8:30. We're going to talk about that kind of stuff. I don't know if it will be of interest to other people, but we'll talk about it.
We'll have fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So today we're going to be talking about working moms, as we mentioned, and I want you guys to, if you're willing to, each share a story. Someone's like inviting me to come talk at a speech right now. They were like, join the show. I'm like, I can't join this show. I'm already on my show. Later. I want you to share a story about being a working mom. And then I kind of want to like break things down. I could go first if you want me to go first. And then you guys could jump in with your stories. So when my son, so I lived in New York City when we had my son, Jack, and you guys, I think, could vouch for this, is when you live in New York City, there is this pressure to immediately go back to work. At least that was the pressure that I had felt. It was like, that's what everyone's doing. That's what you do. That's what's expected of you living in Manhattan, to have a baby and, 3 months later, go back to work. And so I felt this societal pressure. And I was like, all right, I guess that's what I'm going to do. So I took a job in Stamford, Connecticut, where I was only going into the office like once a week. The rest of the work was from home, and my son was in a daycare, which was literally across the street from my house. So I felt very safe about that because he was just literally across. I could see the daycare from my apartment building. And I was at work in the office in Stamford one day, and they called me on the phone, and they were like, oh, he has a cut in his finger. It's okay, but he got his finger caught underneath the door of the classroom or something like that, which sounds like so bizarre. Like, how did a tiny baby get his finger caught underneath the door? I'm not going to ask. And so they called me and they told me that. And that was one of the first times where I was like, I don't know if I want to do this anymore. Like, I'm not sure this is working out for me here. And then actually fast forward a couple months later at the same daycare, there was a situation where all of the children of this particular age group, and it was sort of maybe the 12 month, maybe between 12 months and 18 months, they were taking nap time, and no one was in the room with them. No adults were in the room with them, but the director of the daycare was watching them through her monitor while she was eating lunch, and the other girls, the other teachers, were off on lunch, and the baby spoke up. And they started banging on the door, and they were they woke up and they were like, get us out, we're stuck in a dark room. And so that information leaked out to the parents, not from the director, but from the other teachers who were down the hall because they heard the commotion. And so that was the point at which we pulled my son from that daycare, and we were like, no, that's it. And then I pretty much was like, okay, yeah, we're not going to do this anymore. So that was unfortunately a really bad situation or a bad incident, and it was one of those things where we had some parents that were full-fledged going to go to news channel, channel 4 news, and really blow up the story. It didn't get to that point, but that was the point where I was like, okay, I think we're not going to do the daycare thing anymore. And we did it for a long time. We did it for a solid over a year, maybe a year and a half, but that was just the point where I was like, I'm going to stay home now and be full-time home with him. And then when he was about 3, that's when I started Modern Mom Probs. And then I was like, I'm going to try to make a go at this social media thing. And so never turned back.
It's hard, especially the shift that happens in your mental state. I was so career driven. That was the only thing that I cared about. And even before I got pregnant, I was like, I never want to be a stay-at-home mom. I can never do that. I can never give up on my career. And then in an instance that all changes, right? And I remember when I went back to work, I was still nursing, so I was pumping, and I was late. Then I forgot my pump parts, and then I was pumping in this shady room, and it was walking back to the community kitchen with my milk. I felt judged, and I was this is I feel disgusting, and I shouldn't feel disgusting, And then washing my parts with I had to bring my own sponge. It was this is terrible. And I stopped because number one, mentally I was done. But number two, it was I'm really going to walk through this huge corridor with my jugs of milk, hey,
and your jugs, all of
your jugs and your jugs.
Yeah. With all 4 of my jugs. And then, the icing on the cake was the next day I didn't feel well. And I got COVID. So I got COVID. It was welcome back. You're a new mom. Let's go back to this crap hole of a workforce and then get embarrassed for pumping and then, oh, you have COVID with a 4-month-old.
Oh,
So it was like I was locked in a room. It was not a good place. And at that point I was like, I'm done. I need to do something. I need to be home with her. And
yeah.
And
it's,
now you're
And the
at a
rest
better
is
place
history. And
though.
now you're
Yeah.
crushing it at Tiny Knot. So I
yeah,
think that's amazing.
yeah,
I think a lot of times companies are born from out of that
totally.
frustration, right? They always say that like invention is the mother of necessity. It's really that sort of thing. I mean, that's how I started my company. It sounds like that's how you
Yeah.
started your company. Priscilla, I want to hear about your experiences too, because obviously that is now sort of feeding into what you're currently doing.
Yeah. So for me, my my work and mom life was a little bit crazy because because the way I even got into my job in influencer marketing was kind of an accident. Like I was working for this marketing team doing some freelance writing, and the head of the team was like, "Oh, I'm gonna shift in and help out with this startup. Would you help me out?" And I was like, "Yeah, sure." Thinking I was gonna continue in the same capacity I had been, just here and there doing some writing and just filling in whenever they needed. But it turned out that I had agreed to like a 60-hour a week job helping a company like dig themselves out of implosion. So
Right.
it was really trial by fire in so many ways. I mean, I obviously learned a lot, like ask questions before you accept a job, but it was really traumatic because Ava she's 4 now, and this was last August ish, and she was just starting daycare. So all of these things were happening at the same time. Like I was figuring out how to work remotely during still this pandemic when like a lot of people had already found their stride in that space. Here I come like 18 months into the pandemic, like, wait, how do I do this? And then she had a really rough transition into daycare at the same time. So all of this unexpected stress and pressure from this job that I had taken on collided with her really needing me. Like, if I had fallen into this year, she's, totally adjusted now, it would have been a different story. But it was just she, and I'd say it wasn't anything abnormal. I mean, it was, we're talking like 5 or 6 weeks transition, but we had been together every day, just the three of us, because my husband worked from home. Since March of 2020. So it was she just knew us three and sometimes like a babysitter over the summer. So it was really hard on all of us. And the other thing that was challenging was that it was a mostly West Coast company. So kind of the hours they're hitting their stride, it's time for me to be thinking about going to get her dinner. And, like her after daycare routine is pretty packed. It's just like it's dinner, it's bed, it's brushing teeth, it's stories. It's not like I wanted to get offline at 5 o'clock to rest. I had another like 3 hours of my day on top of the 9 hours I put in. So it was even when you're like working from home and your commute isn't crazy or whatever, like the pressure is just really there, and it's it's a steep curve.
Yeah. Let's talk about, because you made me sort of think of it, division of domestic labor. Because you're saying here, right, you have to pick her up from daycare, right? Because it's like the end of like their work day, but it's not the end of your work day. So how do you sort of negotiate that with your husband? Like who does what? Like, do you have a division of labor? Are you the default parent? I want to talk about a little bit about that with, working moms.
I'm super lucky because we are very much. Justin is super duper involved. I remember right when Ava was born, he was doing so much. I had a C-section, so I wasn't that like mobile right away, and I was overwhelmed with guilt from day one that I wasn't doing enough, that I wasn't, doing every single thing for her. And he was just like, she's my daughter too. And it was it was like transformative in that moment. And like he has always been at least 50% of everything that she's involved in. So I'm really lucky in that regard that I don't have to ask. I mean, the man can't load a dishwasher, but like when it comes to Ava, like it's just not even a question. So, yeah. And so it just sort of, when it comes to like picking her up or whatever, it's just sort of whoever's day is lending itself better, and we'll just, log off and figure it out. But, yeah, he's such a wonderful, involved father, and our schedules we're lucky in that they have worked out.
That's awesome. Thank goodness for Justin.
Yeah.
How about you, Tina? Like, how does that work in your house?
Yeah. So my husband has recently had I won't say midlife crisis because he's not there yet, but like and he was a very successful CPA in accounting, and he totally changed careers and is now a park ranger.
That's an awesome pivot. That is such an awesome pivot. Wow. Okay. Tell us about that.
Side note, he loves it. But it was a big financial, decision. Obviously he was very successful, and now he's starting at the bottom. And being the rookie, he works overnights. So I was like, how is this going to work? Oh my God. But when I tell you, it's the best thing that could have ever happened to us, because I go to sleep at like 11 o'clock. He leaves to go to work. He comes home at 8 o'clock. He's home all day. I sign on at 8:30. He's home, and then he goes to bed at 5, and then I take over. So none of us have a free minute to ourselves, because it's very rare that we're ever like both together. But it works. I'm very grateful for him. I'm very thankful. He's sacrificing a lot doing this. And he's very similar to Justin. He is hands-on. He's 50-50. There's never a question on, can you do it instead? He's always first. He's like before me. Like he's got to go pick her up, or she needed something. He's always running. So I know not a lot of people have that kind of situation with their spouse, and I'm very grateful. So it's somehow worked out.
That's incredible. I'm sorry, I'm going to perseverate on this park ranger thing for a second.
Yeah,
that is
we need
so
to explore
cool.
this.
And we need to explore this. And like, how do you get into it? How do they do the overnights? My sister-in-law, she is originally from England, but now she is an American citizen, and she's obsessed with the park ranger system, or the U.S. Park. And she has this book where she could like get stamps on so her goal is to visit every single park and to have a stamp in her book. And so just in between Christmas and New Year's, we went to the Great Smoky Mountains, and she got a stamp in her book. And she says that when she currently works in PR, but when she retires from PR someday, she would really love to be a park ranger.
So
how do you do that?
This is going to be a little anticlimactic, but so we live on Long Island, so our parks are like nowhere near the Great Smoky Mountains. They're like children's parks with like public toilets. But it's just like any other public service test, civil service test. He took a test. They called him like 10 years later, and he was like, okay, let's try. And he had to go into an academy, and yeah, I think this is him walking in the door right now.
That's so cool.
He has no idea I'm
went on
doing
such
this.
a tangent, but let me tell you, how often do you get the opportunity to meet a park ranger?
Yeah.
I'm like picturing some like Canadian man on a horse, like with a hat, and for some reason my mind just went to like moose. Hey, wait.
This is my park ranger, RJ.
Oh,
hi, RJ.
Good evening, ladies.
You're on TV.
Yay!
You're a good dad. You're a good dad.
You're a great father and an excellent dad.
You hear that?
No,
Nothing. So yeah, it's funny because when he first like signed up for all this, when you think park ranger, like what do you think? They're like patrolling the parks and making sure animals are safe. And no, he's like pulling people over. He like giving tickets, stop signs. He's like, arrest. And he came home. He's like, I don't want to do this. I don't want to tackle drug dealers. I don't.
They come into the parks, bro.
That's not at all what I thought
They
it
love
was. I
parks.
thought he was sitting there explaining like maps of things and posters and history.
And like
Maybe
speaking
out-
to mooses.
Yeah, out in the West, I'm sure it's completely different than the little town we have here that he patrols. But, you know, he has fun.
But he's happy.
He's happy.
Good.
Good. And you know what? That's all that matters.
Yeah.
Well, and he won't always have the overnights with the drug dealers.
No, but yeah, I think he kind of likes it, to be honest with you. I think he likes the
Kind of
overnight.
exciting.
It is, yeah.
It's more exciting than like teaching elementary school children about how to look at a map. Maybe not.
He's going to be a hit at like take your daughter to work. Not take your daughter to work. Bring your parents to work day.
Yeah.
No,
Parents, bring your sons and daughters to work day.
what is it like career day?
Yeah, it's bring your children to work day. Bring your sons
right,
and
right.
daughters to work day.
No,
It's
when
for
the
everybody.
parents come in and talk about their careers at school.
Oh, at school, yeah.
Oh, that's
Not
different.
both.
Career day. Yeah.
I mean, Charlie is very cute, so she'll be a hit when it's take your kid to work day too.
So cute. Oh my God. I love it. So as working moms, I'm going to bring us back because I can talk about this Park Ranger thing all night, but that's a different conversation altogether. So as working moms, do you struggle with guilt?
Are you kidding?
No, I'm
Does
serious.
a bear shit in the park?
I don't know. Ask RJ.
Yeah. I mean, when Justin said she's my daughter too, it didn't like make the guilt go away. It just made me feel safer in it. I'm constantly, am I doing enough? Am I, the solace that I take in it, sorry, I'm trying to get my computer to like light me nicely and I turned it off and now I'm just, I don't know.
Fine. Don't worry.
The thing that I will say helps me is, well, it's twofold. My mom didn't work and she was very unhappy. So what I want and what I'm pursuing is showing my daughter that you can have a career that you love and that it can be fun and fulfilling. And I just, pursuing a life that is fulfilling. It always, thinking about my mom not working also hurts in that, like, I look around my house and I'm like, this is a shithole that is covered with like toys and laundry. But that was her job. And so it's like, I beat myself up for like not keeping up with as much as she did. But at the same time, I'm like trying to work towards a career and the things that I love. Mm-hmm. And I think that's important for her, more important for her to see than
Absolutely.
tidiness.
100%. Absolutely.
I don't think there's a mom out there that doesn't have guilt, no matter if she's home, if she's working. It's like ingrained in you and, you love them so much. And when I set out on this journey to, start my own business, my main focus was so I can watch her grow up. And, I'm doing that and I am, very proud of myself. But then almost every waking moment that I'm awake and she's awake, I'm on my phone doing something, creating content, doing this. So I'm not as present as I want to be, even though I'm physically present. Mm-hmm. And then at the end of the day, like I just put her down and I kind of rushed her down. And now I'm sitting here like all she wanted to do was a puzzle. And I, was setting up a PR package, So, but if I didn't do that, I'd find something else to be guilty about. I'm convinced.
Yeah, no, it's true. I mean, it's almost impossible to combat the overall notion of mom guilt and shame and all of that. I think sort of the system sort of set up that way, and whether we're wired that way or the system set up that way, whatever it happens to be, I think all of us go through it.
Yeah.
Now, what's interesting? You just said something, Tina. It made me think of it. So my one friend, Pamela Peckerman, she's like a business coach, and she often talks about being a value-driven entrepreneur. And so she says, like, you have to think about your values when you're a business owner, right? And one of her values is flexibility. And it's funny because, she asks people like, okay, write down your values and your intentions for the year. And people often think like, well, my value, is like community and family and those things. And she says like, she never writes family down as one of her values. What she actually writes down instead is flexibility. And when you said that, Tina, it made me think because like what you're valuing there is the flexibility to be home with Charlie. And that you're able to put together a PR packet and then swivel and then be able to play with her. And I think there's something so beautiful about that flexibility that, until Pamela like said it so eloquently like that, I was like, that makes sense, because that is a very important thing for me. Like I work from home, I'm able to drop my son off at school, pick him up at school in the afternoon, schlep him to wherever he has to go afterwards. And it's like, I value that I'm able to do both my work that I love and be able to be present to do those types of things. I grew up in a single family home. And so I lived with my mother, and she worked 120 hours a week, every week of my entire childhood. So she actually never had the opportunity to do any of that kind of stuff.
And that probably ate her up alive,
I'm sure it did. I'm sure it did. And she was, singularly focused in as much as that she knew that she had to make money to pay for us so that we could eat and live and all of those things. And so that was a big part of her. But you're right, Tina. I'm sure that was a big thing. And then, even having, said that, like, I didn't really have activities as a kid, because if you don't have anyone to bring you to activities or pick you up from activities, you don't do activities, right? You're just home, and that's sort of like, or you're playing with your friends or something like that. But that's sort of, what it was like. And I'm sure that, if she could, in a perfect world, go back and do it again, it's like, yeah, she would want to be home to be able to bring me to cheerleading practice or gymnastics or something like that, So flexibility as a working mom, whether it's remotely or whether it's in an office or whether it's at a restaurant in her case, like, is so important. And I think it was a word or a term or a phrase that I always just sort of took for granted until Pamela really put it out there.
Yeah, really, it makes sense. It really does.
Yeah. I can't believe we're nearly at time.
I won't buy
How does that go by so quickly? I'm dying about your lighting thing. It cracks me up. I don't know why. It just makes me laugh. Okay, so what's your final takeaway? What advice do you have? I'm going to start with Tina, and then I'm going to go to P. What advice do you have for working mothers?
Just remember, at the end of the day, when you are stressed out and you're beating yourself up about not doing enough at work or not being present enough at home, you are doing your best, and your child thinks that you are an absolute rock star, even if you failed. They don't know.
That's absolutely true. I second that.
Yeah.
P,
And
I'll throw it to you.
ask for what you need from your partner. If you're not getting it, they may not know that you need a gap filled in. And just to sort of piggyback off what Tina said, be kind to yourself. Say something kind to yourself at the beginning of the day and the end of the day, because I don't think we necessarily get to hear it enough in the workplace. And just as life is so crazy. So I'm really working on positive affirmations.
It's so important, though. It really is. We could do a whole separate show on positive affirmations. You want to come back for that? Do you guys want to come back for that?
Yeah, I'll have lucky girl syndrome.
We'll have you back. We're going to talk about positive affirmations, because I think that's super important. I love that. Tina, Priscilla, I adore both of you guys so much. Thank you for sharing your insights, and thank you for sharing your stories. And we're going to come back and do another episode, the three of us together. Thank you, everyone, for joining.